Hello, my name is Greg Story. I'm the president of Dale Carnegie Training here in Japan. Leaders should be self-directed. That means they have a very clear vision for where they want to take the organization. Sounds very simple, doesn't it? But if you actually ask most leaders, well, show us your vision or tell us about your vision, often it's not written down, it's not coherent, it's not really thought through, or it's been totally forgotten. This is not very effective. So having a very clear direction on where we want to take the organization for a leader is an absolute critical skill. They should have goals. Now, a goal is not just a target. A target will have a certain time frame around completion, financial year, half year, quarter, whatever it might be, but a goal, that's a bigger subject. That's something about where they want to direct the entire future of the organization, things they need to achieve. They also should have values, because if we understand the type of culture we want to build in any organization, it's bound to be based on shared values. What are the values that the leader has? And are those driving the business? Because credibility is really centered around the value system you have and how you live those values and how you communicate those values to the team. So do they have that? Are they creating the right environment for people in which to work? This be an environment where people feel trusted, where they feel empowered, where they feel a chance also to become self-directed themselves and take accountability to themselves. So all of these things are very important for a leader in making sure that the organization is going to have the right path and the right means to get there. For leaders, another very important skill set is people skills. Now, very interesting. People put a lot of weight on technical skills. If you're in law or accounting or engineering or architecture or any of the classic professions, or if you're in the IT area, there are certain fundamental technical skills you have to have. And people spend a long time educating themselves around becoming very proficient in those technical skills. However, what about people skills? For a leader, you can't do it all yourself. You have to work through your people. You have to get things done through the team. That means you have to be able to deal with people in a very effective way. Yet, many leaders become leaders actually almost by default. Amongst the group that they are working in, they were selected for leadership based on their technical expertise. Now, that's great, but when they actually get in the position of having to run a team, they soon discover that their technical skills are not the key skills to be successful as a team leader. They need to have people skills. This means communication. This means dealing with things like conflict within the workplace. It means having people feel valued. We know that engagement of teams is very closely related to how much value they feel is being placed with them, the organization, how it regards them, how their bosses see them, the idea of the value they bring to the organization, their contribution being valued by the hierarchy. All of these things are people skills. So if we don't really study how to be really good with people, not just mediocre with people, but really good with people, then we're never going to be the true leader that we need to be. And that affects the whole organization. It holds everything down. So people skills is an absolute critical skill. But when you go through university or you go through MBA, that component is not really dealt with. So this is often a big gap, particularly with people who have been promoted on the basis of their performance or the basis of their technical skills, or both, and then they find that actually running a team is much more complicated than just having those particular personal performance or technical skills. For leaders, having really good command of process skills is also very important. Now, sometimes we might see poor performance, but actually behind that poor performance there might be a very poor process. The leader's job is to make sure that the processes are there to help the people to be successful rather than impinging on their success. The leader's ability to effectively plan the direction for the organization, to have that environment I talked about before where people are keen to have their creative ideas put forward, to want to innovate, to improve the business, to define clear performance objectives so everyone actually has no doubt about what they're doing. Now, one of the key things there is understanding the why we are doing it, not just the what or the how or the when or the who. And often leaders forget to tell people the why, but a good leader, defining that clear performance objective is wrapped around the why we are doing that. So the ability to delegate is very critical, because this is how we build the next generation. By giving them tasks that are at that level, they get an understanding of, okay, this is the jump I've got to make to become a leader. This is the type of content of the work that I'm going to have to be across. And it gives them a bit of a taste of it before having the full accountability as the leader. Time is critical, and time management is critical. And how many leaders do we see who've got actually pretty poor time management? And if your time management skills are poor, the chances are that your team are also going to suffer from having poor time management skills as well. And what about analysing problems and making decisions? This is something that's very, very critical, because we're constantly seeing changes in the market and business. We're seeing new technologies come out. So we're constantly having to analyse the situation, look at where we are now, where we need to be, and then we've got to make some choices. We've got to come up with some priorities. How do we analyse the situation, and how would you determine what those priorities should be through the decision-making process we have? All of these things are very, very important in dealing with process for a leader. Leaders have to be good communicators. Now, we all know that, but what does that actually mean? It means that they're very good with their questioning and listening skills. They ask very good questions to stimulate the thought process of the people working for them. They get very rich information through asking these very good questions. And their listening skills are very important, because it's not a one-way communication of I tell you what to do because I'm the boss. It's more around using good questions to get the understanding, get the thought process going, listen very carefully to what's being said, listen to what's not being said, anticipate problems, anticipate issues with people. All of those things are part of communications. And this also runs into having good application reports, what's happening in a particular unit or a particular project, being able to run very effective meetings. Most meetings are not very effective. They're very, time consuming. The outcomes are never clear. They're not set up properly. They're not facilitated properly. The professional leader, they run a very tight ship. Meetings work like clockwork, very, very good. And they're able to get through that communication piece with their team, the team's insights, because when you're at the working level, dealing at the sort of coalface, you're in touch with everything that's going on. But as you become a leader, you start to drift away from that, because you're doing other things now, and you're not at the sort of touch points. Your antennae are not the same as the people working for you. So your ability to communicate with your team and get out of them what's going on, what are the insights they're seeing about where the market's going, what are the innovations they can see to make the organisation run more smoothly or more profitably or higher quality or faster speed or whatever it might be. All the answers are with the people. The leader's job, let's get those things out. Leaders demonstrate accountability. They lead by example, and they admit there are mistakes. The idea that they're perfect, they never make a mistake, they're on a different level of accountability than everyone else, not true. When they are able to have the courage and the strength to admit when they're wrong, this brings people to them. So accountability with humility, very important. Also, taking care of getting the results through their people. That means coaching their people, guiding their people, supporting them, helping them to be motivated and encouraged to achieve the results. That is the leader's responsibility. They are accountable for the overall results, but they're accountable through their people. This means they have to develop their team to be able to do that. And once they're good at developing their people, they get leverage, because as a leader, there's only so many hours in a day you can work. Once you have leverage, then you can really maximize and multiply the entire power at your fingertips, really. So the leader has to create and monitor the systems of control and the processes that need to apply to make the whole machine run smoothly. The purpose of that is to give the people in the team the freedom to achieve. All of these systems and process and control points should be helping them to be effective, not hindering them. This is the leader's job, to make sure that the system is going for the people in the same direction that the organization needs to see the results being achieved through. And it's backing them up, not holding them down. So the leader overviews those systems, those points of control. They take accountability for the results. They also take accountability for the way in which the results are achieved. There are 5 drivers of successful leaders: self-direction, people skills, process skills, communication, and accountability. These are the things that leaders need to have to make sure that the organization prospers and goes forward. And if the leaders are not really firing in all of these 5 areas, then there's a gap from where the organization should be today compared to where it actually is. And we've got to close that gap. The problem is most leaders are not well trained. They spend a lot of time getting the technical skills or working on their performance outcomes, but the actual study of leadership in its own right, not well developed. So we have a course, you can see information here, called the Leadership Training for Managers course, which drives all of these 5 drivers throughout a 7-week program. So we do time-space learning. Come and do 1 week, practice the things between that week and the next week, then come back and report, and just keep repeating that process over 7 weeks. There's also an innovation process right through the middle of that, where they take an actual project and they work on it over those 7 weeks. And in week 8, they present to their boss, here's our innovation idea. It could be individually, it could be as a team. We offer this course in-house, we offer it as a public course, we offer it in Japanese, and we offer it in English. So if you really see a need to take your organization to the next level, and you see that the gap is in that leadership area, that you're not really getting the full leverage of your entire team because your leadership group are not fully trained as leaders, well, what are you waiting for? If your opposition, if your opponents, if your rivals, if your competitors are plugging that gap, if they are doing well in that area, then you're going to get left behind. We don't want that. So take action, help your leaders to become people who can really drive performance through their people and have a very, very powerful impact on the future direction of your business. We look forward to seeing you on the Leadership Training for Managers course.